Hello everyone, welcome to day 2 of Pro Tour Rivals of Ixalan. Rich Hagan alongside Maria Bartholdi and Paul Cheon here. Great stuff, so welcome along. It is time to rock and roll. We're going to start with the leaderboard and show you what's been happening on day 1, because we know a lot of you weren't able to see that, so why don't we take a look and show you what is going on at the top of our standings. So the leaderboard is there for you to see, and as you can see, we have 1-8-0 perfect record, and right now that leader is Adriano Moscato of Italy. An extraordinary performance by him. One other perfect record at 7-0-1, and that is Lucas Esper Berto. Then you see a host of 7-1s going down to Carlos Romao in 15th place. Couple of ultimate guards there, Rietzl and Duke. A couple of Harryuya Latins, Berto and Romao. So Maria, let's head on down to 21 through 40. Pick out some names for us in our next selection of players.
All right, taking a look here at all these players on 6 and 2 as well. We've got Raymond Vasquez there. You can see Piotr Goglovsky, of course, the lantern control master. Got a chance to see him playing his lantern cards yesterday, just all out in front of him, kind of looking very, very smug, like, oh, I know how to play this deck, which indeed he does. Li Shitian, you can see there on 28th. Ben Stark, of course, from the USA in 29th.
Right, so everyone there at 6 and 2. And Paul, if we move on, we're going to see from 41 through 60, again, everyone at 6 and 2.
Yeah, we got Ken Yukihiro from Team Masashi. We got Andrew Beckstrom, part of Team Manitraders.com. We have Christopher Larson sitting in at 48 at 6 and 2. And we have Brian...
Christian Calcano!
Christian Calcano. Bubbles at 6 and 2. But Bogles, rather. I was like, Bubbles.
No.
And Brian Brown-Duin in 59th place at 6 and 2 from Team Genesis.
Right, okay, so let's go on one stage further, because there's 6 and 2 still coming. Corey Burkhart, Gregor Kowalski, and Jacob Doherty are at 6 and 2. Now, the 5-1 and 2s, Peter Viren with a double draw, plenty of 5-2-1s with single draws, and even the 5-3s, which go a long way down, they will still feel they have a chance of making it to the top 8. 4 and 4 probably out the door. 12, 3 and 1 is usually where you feel reasonably solid about your top 8 chances. All right, so that's the scores on the doors. But how did we get there? What was the story of yesterday? For that, 2 gentlemen who were in the thick of the action in the feature match area. Here come Tim Willoughby and Riley Knight.
Thanks, Rich. We had a fantastic day in the feature match area yesterday. Of course, we saw a lot of great matches. We kind of give you a little bit of a shape of some of the things we saw, how we've got halfway through the Swiss rounds of this tournament. Of course, we kicked things off with draft, and we got to see 3 great rounds, lots of different decks put together. But for me, the highlight of that one, Riley, was where we got to see Reed Duke against Matt Nass, 2 decks that were fighting for winning out on their draft table. 2 very powerful decks. Matt Nass, a huge amount of removal, and Graph at the top end. But ultimately, Reed Duke able to put together a masterful game plan, get through that round and win out his draft. Then we came on to Modern.
That's right. It was a masterful display of limited magic throughout the morning, but after having got to round number 4, of course, we got to the best format in the multiverse. It was Modern, and we kicked off with the best mirror match in the multiverse between Raph Levy, the Hall of Famer, PV DDR, the Hall of Famer as well, and they were on a celestial colonnade mirror. It is must-watch viewing, ladies and gentlemen, from yesterday. Anyone looking for an edge, how to get up in blue-white control, you want to get across that match. But something that really stood out for me yesterday, Tim, we saw this repeatedly. We've seen the ascendancy of 5-colour humans. We've seen this deck really hustle and bustle very, very hard indeed and close out matches, although not always. This was something that stood out to me a little bit, Tim, the fact that 5-colour humans, as I would say, one of the premier aggro decks in the format, often lacks a bit of closing power. We saw several times, we saw Mattis Matsoukas in the feature match area, we saw Jerry Thompson in the feature match area, both of these guys paired against humans decks with, various other decks of their own, stabilising at 1, 2, 3, 4 life maybe, and then finally closing the gap. Now, Kessig Malcontents is a great way for the humans deck to find some reach, but I'm concerned that this new aggro deck, it's great at dealing 15 points of damage, it's great at dealing 18 points of damage, but sometimes it just doesn't get over the line, and that was a big characteristic of the way that Modern's shaping up, and something to keep an eye on today, I think, Tim.
Yeah, and the final thing that we had from our feature match area, the quiet story that is only getting louder as this weekend goes on, that being Adriano Moscato of Italy. He was in the feature match area for pretty much the entirety of the constructed rounds, playing Affinity always on that rival's table and always finding a way to win with his deck. Affinity, it's not just a 60-card deck. He had to have some nice little tech for the mirror there and for when people had the artifact removal. We got a chance to see him beating down with Bitter Blossom in his sideboarded games, doing fantastic work and getting paid off for it, advancing to 8-0 in this tournament.
All right, thanks, Tim and Riley, for that recap of yesterday. It was an awesome day. Paul, you were in the booth for a lot of it. Tell me, what was the highlight overall for you?
Well, actually, they touched on it just now. I think the highlight for me was watching the match between Reed Duke and Matt Nass. They both had very solid decks. We had the classic Merfolk versus Pirates matchup. Matt Nass with a ton of removal spells. And Reed Duke actually just putting himself in situations where he was kind of playing around all the different removal spells that Matt Nass could have. But then Matt Nass also putting himself in situations where, you know, if he puts himself in a position to top deck that Angrath, that was a huge top deck. It looked like he was just completely dead. He was at 1 life, and Reed Duke had a 4/5 flying River Darter, top decks Angrath the Flame Chain to steal it and sacrifice it and come back. So that was just an epic match. 2 great players going back and forth. I felt like my fingers were getting kind of tired because the advantage bar just kept going back and forth the entire game.
Yeah, that was awesome. Yeah. All right, let's check in with BDM to see how our teams are doing in the team series.
Thanks, Maria. When we started day one, we looked at how people were doing in the overall team series. I want to look at some of the top teams yesterday in the tournament, and here you get a look at the leaderboard of team standings just from yesterday. And there's a team, Grey Ogre Games, at the top of the list that, you know, maybe we haven't talked about them before in the team series. Well, it's because they're new to it. This is a Singaporean team led by Tae Jun Hao at 7-1. And what's really relevant here, 6 players still in top 8 contention. You know, this is a team that is hoping to, you know, they've really got their fingers crossed. They need to put multiple people into the top 8 and really try to put, if they want to pull ahead in the overall standings, but a great job by them on day one. Of course, Lucas Esper-Bertu, the Pro Tour Ether Revolt champion, leading team Harajuya Latin at 7-1. They have 5 players still in contention. Jerry Thompson, 7-1, playing this weekend with a heavy heart, lost his good friend and Pro Tour competitor, Corey McDuffie this weekend. And, you know, he is 7-1 and doing a great job for Team Metagame Guru's son. You know, everybody here, our love and best thoughts to the McDuffie family. Team Ultimate Guard, Reed Duke and Paul Rietzl, both at 7-1, pacing that team, and that's a team that was in great shape coming into the team series. So, you know, they're really going to be surging ahead. And Musashi was a team that had a very, very quiet first Pro Tour after basically winning what seemed like everything last year. They won the team series last year. Multiple members of this team won the World Magic Cup for Japan, and here they are again. Teruya Kukamai and Ken Yukihiro both at 6-2, and putting them in great shape in the overall team series again.
All right, thanks, BDM. So let's head down to the feature match area. Let's show you the table, and we'll show you what's coming your way here at Pro Tour Rivals of Ixalan. We have a fantastic pod lined up, and we begin with Lucas Esper-Bertu. There he is from Harajuya Latin. Next to him is Paul Rietzl, the number 7 on the table, Ultimate Guard Pro. Tae Jun Hao from Grey Ogre Games. Then there's Adriano Moscato. His perfect record continues. Round we go. There's Michael Lagambo, the RPTQ in his first PT. John Stern from Mastrop West with his 2 Grand Prix titles. Then it's going to be Javier Dominguez in the Harajuya shirt. And next to him is Makis Matsoukas, the Gold Level Pro. Those are the 8 players who are going to shape the destiny of our morning here at Pro Tour Rivals of Ixalan. They're ready. We're ready. Let's head down for the draft here on Pro Tour Saturday.
Hello there. Welcome back to the booth here at Pro Tour Rivals of Ixalan. That's Simon Gertz and I'm Marshall Sutcliffe. We have arisen early in the morning, Simon. For what reason? Booster draft. That's right. We've got the second draft here at the Pro Tour with our feature pod all lined up. You know, on day one, we'll start off with, we'll kind of go through the pods and pick the one that looks like it has a bunch of big names or potentially cool matches in there. But day 2, we usually stick to pod 1, which has the top finishers from day 1. And they are sitting down in the feature match area right now. We've got Paul Rietzl for our live covered match that Simon and I are going to cover right now. Let's head on down. Hello and welcome back to coverage here at Pro Tour Rivals of Ixalan. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Simon Gertzen, and we're all set for draft number 2. We're here on Pro Tour Saturday, ready to kick things off with, one of the best players in any room he walks into, Paul Rietzl. Paul ended up with 21 match points yesterday, so 7 wins. A really solid day for Rietzl, something that he's done before and will undoubtedly do again. He plays for Team Ultimate Ultimate Guard Pro Team, and we get to see what he thinks of draft. A lot of differing opinions, Simon, about the draft format amongst the teams, and we might get a little snapshot at what Team Ultimate Guard thinks here. Well, let's take a look at what he's opened. He's got a Moment of Craving pulled to the wow, good removal in this. There's a Baffling End. And there's also a Legion Lieutenant in the pack here, Simon. What do you like?
Yeah, that's kind of a tricky pack already because you have the Vampire Lord, but you also have 2 very solid removal spells in white and black. Moment of Craving, by some considered the best black common in the format to actually first pick. So yeah. That's already a crossroads here.
Of course, the Legion Lieutenant has the highest upside of these 3 cards, but it's also a gold card. Really only goes into 1 deck, and if you don't end up playing it, well, you don't realize any of that upside, do you?
That's absolutely true. And on the other hand, what's going through your head here is you're now passing a strong Vampire Tribal card, and you're picking a black card. What if Vampires is open? Do you just draft it anyway? Or do you actually prefer to go somewhere like red-black Pirates or blue-black?
Right, and that is a real question that Paul's going to have, because not only did he pass the Legion Lieutenant, he also passed Baffling End, and those are 2 cards that go into white and or white-black decks. He could be setting the players up to his right to be in those colors.
Yeah, and you can actually tell that he's pulling Pirates to the front of this pack. So yes. Stormfleet, Swashbuckler, but he goes for the Vampire. It is the black card, and I understand the allure of Dust Legion Zealot. One thing that might be obvious, but because we are passing 2 packs to the left and only 1 to the right, you are always in the dominant position compared to your left neighbor. So if Paul really wants to draft Vampires, he can do so. He will ultimately get more Vampires cards than his left neighbor.
Looks like he's looking at Stormfleet Swashbuckler here.
This is the second one he's seeing in a row.
A relatively powerful uncommon. You know, this isn't the type of card that makes or breaks a deck, but it's a card you're happy to have in these aggressive pirate decks. And it looks like he is going to lean towards black-red pirates. That's a deck that's actually been quite contentious. I found it to be strong. It's a deck that I like in the format, but I was having a chat with some of the pro teams, and they actually had it near the bottom. Wow, is that a Moment of Craving in this pack still?
Absolutely, yeah. The big discussion early on in the format has been the question if you want to pick Moment of Craving over Impale. Impale, of course, the 4-mana sorcery, unconditional removal. Moment of Craving is a very different kind of removal spell, but because the format is quite fast and you don't want to fall behind on turns 2 and 3, it's very valuable.
Now, one thing that did get opened up at the table here that could change things a little bit, but looks like it probably won't, is a Profane Procession. Of course, that's a double-faced card, so it will be revealed to the other players. It was open, though, 4 seats away from Paul, so effectively the opposite side of the table. And even though there was a chance in the early stages that he may lean into that color pair, he's not going to. This is a really interesting pick here from Rietzl. Wow, he gets a Goblin Trailblazer, an absolutely perfect card for the black-red Pirates deck. No, he's not going to take it. He took a Recover over it, so clearly leaning back into black here and then deciding what he wants to do for a second color later.
Paul is doing multiple things here. He's staying open regarding his second color. He's also making sure, or as sure as he can, that he's not sending any black signals. So that whatever the person or even persons to his left are drafting, it's not black.
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised to see that strategy be continued here.
Yeah, and that's what he did. He just took the Dust Charger. That was a pack full of nothing particularly standout, and the Dust Charger's proven to be a fine playable in the format, so he just takes it. Yeah, he just really doesn't want to pass any black cards here. Grasping Scoundrel, though, looks to be the only black card left in the pack. I don't think that would be taken as a signal or a key card by really anybody, so he kind of has free reign over what he wants to take here, and he's got Secrets of the Golden City pulled to the front.
Yeah, and that's a card that he might value high enough. The Crown is there as well, but he's willing to accept that Secrets of the Golden City might not make his deck, but the only card he's losing is the Grasping Scoundrels.
Looks like he's got another Secrets of the Golden City here. Value Town for Paul Rietzl if he wants to go down the black-blue route. And that is certainly a deck you can draft in this format. Now, one of the cards that you'll want to see, well, ideally as many as you can get in some way. A Sailor of Means, he hasn't seen any of those yet.
No, there haven't been any in his packs.
But maybe he'll pick one up. I don't know about the third one, although I don't know when else he's going to take over it. Aquatic Incursion, an interesting way to get to the city's blessing, but he's just going to, go back a little bit and take Tillinolli's Crown here. That likely a non-pick, it doesn't matter which card he took out of that pack, but, he does still have a little bit of a feeler into red.
Absolutely. He doesn't have to be blue just because of the Secrets of the Golden City.
He's going to take Silverclad Ferocidons here. Card that is not been particularly impressive, to be honest.
No, 7-drops are very expensive in this format, so they have to really deliver a lot.
Another Dust Charger really does lean him back towards the, I want Sailor of Means, I want to be able to cast these Secrets of the Golden City and these Dust Chargers and make them a little better than they'd normally be via Ascend. And we'll see how Pack 2 goes for him, if he goes in that direction or not. But Paul knows one thing. He's in black. He's got a lot of good black cards, and black certainly seemed open in that first pack. So he will likely be set up for the next pack, or excuse me, for the last pack as well.
He got a late moment of craving. That is a very good sign. I think these Dust Chargers, while not being super high picks, are also nice to get. You actually 3/3s are quite good in this format, and Paul can feel confident that he is very well positioned in black. Unless somebody is forcing vampires to his left, there shouldn't really be a black drafter. So he can expect to get enough cards to go either red-black or blue-black.
Yeah, right now it's really interesting because while he only has the 2 blue cards, those are a much more cohesive strategy with the rest of the cards he has than the 2 Tillinolli's Crowns, than the Ferocidons as a 7-drop, even though when you fan out the cards, it looks like, well, maybe he'll just be black-red. It's like, he really only has one card that you really want. And even then, it's not amazing. The Swashbuckler's fine, but it's not.
Absolutely. And 2 Dust Chargers also reward you for getting the city's blessing. So the blue-black deck looks like it has the more coherent strategy. Paul will have to watch out for his mana, and he's certainly already thinking about that.
Yeah.
What you don't want to have is, and you don't want to end up with, let's say, 5 or 6 blue cards, out of which half of them are double blue casting cards.
Yes,
because
that can be difficult.
that just leads to inconsistency that you would rather prevent.
All right, let's see if he can get a Tetzamach here. That's, of course, what Paul's going to be hoping for. Best card in the set, and it's in his primary color, so it would be a lovely thing for Paul Rietzl to snap off a Tetzamach, but there's plenty of great options, more removal in the form of Impale or more Moment of Craving, Twilight Prophet. There's a bunch of great stuff in black that he could open up here. Or, we could see a little bit more about where he wants to go for his second color.
Yes, and if he ends up in, for example, blue-black Ascend with a lot of treasures, then he could even splash something that is outside of his colors.
All right, no Tetzamach, but he did get a Captain's Hook, which is a card that's performed quite well, though a little better in an aggressive deck, generally speaking, but still.
It is much better in an aggressive deck.
And you do see pulled to the front and on the right-hand side of your screen there, Sailor of Means. That's a card that you and I mentioned that if he does want to make blue his secondary color, would be a great addition to the deck. It lets you splash around a little bit, and it gets you 2 permanents plus a good blocker. But no, he's going to go ahead and take the most powerful and open option, kind of the combination of the two, with Captain's Hook.
This was a very difficult pick, I think. Captain's Hook is the most powerful card in a vacuum. If this was pick 1, pack 1, I would definitely take it. With the cards he has, it doesn't seem perfectly positioned, but we are still early on in the draft. We've only had the first third of cards picked, so Paul can still turn this into an aggressive deck. Even a pirate deck is not out of the question.
Wow,
And
look at that. A Legion Lieutenant comes his direction after having shipped one. Here's Impale, though, a very simple pick here for Rietzl.
and that's also because he knows he will be in black. No reason to risk anything with the Bombard. He's also happy to add an unconditional removal spell to his arsenal. When you already have 2 moments of craving, you don't want to rely too much on being able to kill low toughness creatures. You want to have something.
Yeah.
For
this is much more reliable, this Impale.
Yeah, bigger threats.
Especially if he does end up in the blue-black version of the deck, because that will lead him down a route. Ooh, there's a Sailor of Means. Yeah, now we got a Sailor. I like taking the Sailor here. Let's see what Paul takes. This is actually a major decision point for Paul. If he takes a Sailor, it means we kind of know which way he's going. If he goes for one of these red cards, well, he could be taking a much different tack. And then the Oathsworn Vampire's been, well, a little unimpressive, to be honest.
I don't expect the Vampire, but the red cards, Striking Corsair or the Bravado, this would actually support the Captain's Hook and a more aggressive Black-Red Pirates deck. Mm-hmm. You can even combine some of the plus power effects, like the Crown and the Hook, with the Bravado and build this kind of double strike deck.
Well, he ended up taking the Sailor of Means, so we know where he went. There's that one of the big, maybe the best payoff for the Black-Red Pirates deck here, Direfleet Neckbreaker. Though at this point, it's interesting, he may be able to just to splash it and use it as kind of a finisher in the deck. It's funny, it actually works well with Sailor of Means. It makes them into really nasty attackers with high toughness that are just hard to interact with. He already has 2 copies of Secrets of the Golden City, so he's not going to be prioritizing that, but I love the direction Paul's gone here. I was really hoping he would take the Sailor of Means last pack, which he did, and now the Direfleet Neckbreaker is a pretty easy splash for him at this point. And he does have a lot of pirates.
I do think that he's still staying somewhat open, because, for example, picking the Captain's Hook was not the most straightforward pick for the blue-black deck, for sure. But this is just a way to reduce your dependency on what the cards bring.
I think he's going for the slow, the controlling, sort of ascend deck. I think he'd pick as many Sailor Means at this point as possible. Mm-hmm. He gets another good removal spell, Reaver Ambush. Again, not really filling a niche that he didn't have covered, but he'll take it. It's a solid card.
Yeah, I just would have liked him to pick Sailor Means over Captain's Hook.
Yeah,
that's my biggest problem with the first pick.
Yeah, no, I understand. My guess is that Paul would say Captain's Hook just on raw power level is too much higher to pass. I think that would be his argument. I'm sure that Sailor Means caught his eye. He was thinking, oh, I'd like this for my deck, but when you get a colorless card that's that powerful, it is pretty off theme, to be fair. There's another Dust Charger, though. He's already got 2 of those. He's also got multiple recovers.
Yeah.
I think if he had a Ravenous Chupacabra, those recovers, you can start really considering playing multiples, but you get a little jammed up if your opening hand has a recover and 2 Secrets of the Golden City in it. You could easily die to some of the decks in the format.
Also, the third Dust Charger doesn't add too much to the deck. Right. So for Paul, this is probably a pick that will not make his main deck.
Right. Here's an interesting pickup, Soul of the Rapids for him. A card that on its own can do some stuff. It's okay. But man, the real combos I've seen with it are throwing auras on it, namely Mark of the Vampire.
I agree.
I had an opponent put in Mark of the Vampire and Soul of the Rapids, and I was like scrambling trying to figure out how I was going to deal with it. Oh, did he take Dark Inquiry?
Quite surprising. We saw Owen Turtenwald yesterday value Soul of the Rapids quite highly, and I was pretty sure that he would take the Hexproof Flyer here.
Me too. I'm interested in this now. But yeah, once they get a Mark of the Vampire going on it, there's not a lot you can do. Of course, my opponent put 2 of them on it, and there was really nothing I could do then. Well, if he wants to be in full grind mode, he can go for Arterial Flow. If he wants to be kind of a Grixis-y pirate deck, he can take Swaggering Corsair, but it really doesn't fit what he has going on at this point.
It doesn't fit his theme. It doesn't fit his colors. He's certainly not looking to raid. I'm concerned about his creature count. He doesn't really have enough creatures. And look at, if you have an opening hand with Secrets of the Golden City, Recover, and Captain's Hook, and you don't draw a sufficient number of creatures, you're just going to die in this format.
Yeah. Picks up a Grasping Scoundrel there. And he's going to take a Strider Harness and pass that last card. Well, let's take a look when Paul fans out. Remember, the players get a certain amount of time to review their picks in between here at professional level events. And we're going to get a chance to just get a snapshot, perhaps, of how many creatures Rietzel's working with. So he's going to sort out the cards that he's planning on playing from this pack and kind of get a look at his curve and what he's got going on. Obviously, in a perfect world, you would lay them out in front of you, but that doesn't work when you're sitting right next to the people you're going to be playing against. So, let's see what he's thinking. You see him being quick with it. He's got a lot of removal and a lot of card advantage, but I agree with you, Simon. I think he's going to need to shore up his creature count a bit here in pack number 3.
Yeah, I see a lack of 3-drops. I see a problem if you're only 2 color and you're playing blue-black. What are you winning the game with? Dust Charger? Okay, you have 2 Dust Chargers. He even has a Canal Monitor back there.
He does, yeah. He picked one off late.
That's not the kind of finishers I'm looking for in this format.
Yeah, no, I mean, he does have still a reasonable number of red cards, but really nothing great. The only card that stands out is the Neckbreaker as a great card. Otherwise, he's kind of 3-color Pirates, but it's a bit of a mishmash.
But if you
don't want Tillinolly's Crown and Secrets of the Golden City in the same deck that often.
If you're looking what he's doing here, he is looking at how would his black-red deck look like.
Of course, it's just there isn't much there.
Yeah,
I mean, the truth is he doesn't have that much blue either, so
maybe he should have committed earlier.
Could be.
Well, this seems like he's still in a hybrid.
It does, and it seems like the two strategies that he's hemming and hawing between conflict with each other as well. It's not like he can just marry these together in a really nice way. It's like you've got Dust Chargers and Secrets of the Golden City. You've also got Swashbucklers and Tillinolly's Crowns with Buccaneers Bravados. So,
and that's because you can't just play all 3 colors without losing a lot of consistency.
Yeah, he still has the Captain's Hook as well. So let's see where Paul goes here. This is the interesting part. This is where he really is going to narrow down his strategy in this last pack, and perhaps even his 2 colors. Like, he doesn't have that much good blue. He's got a Sailor of the Means and the Secrets of the Golden City, but I mean those aren't insane cards.
And he also has more playables in red. If in the end it might just come down to quantity.
Yes. Wanted Scoundrels is the card that he's got pulled to the front. A really nice pickup. This is on color and on theme for either direction that he goes. So, yeah.
It's not a bomb ray you're hoping for, but it's very close because it solves a lot of the issues he has. It's in black, so it doesn't force him to commit. It's 2 mana, so it's good for his curve, and it's a giant beater.
Paul, don't even look at that Revel in Riches. There we go. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I'd like to see it.
Yeah, but Paul's deck is not a Revel in Riches deck.
No. No, not at all. So let's see what he gets here. Ooh, there's a Contract Killing. Yeah, that looks like the pick here for Rietzl. Boy, he does have a lot of removal in this deck, doesn't he? He's got the Reaver Ambush. He's got the 2 Moment of Cravings. He has an Impale and now a Contract Killing as well.
Yes, he has a lot of removal, and it's nicely spread out throughout his mana curve. So on that part, he's set. He's
checked fine. That box. Yep, he's good to go. So now the question is, what colors is he, and what kind of strategy is he going to put forth?
Contract Killing also quite a bit better if you're having an ambitious mana base or if you want to ascend. So that's actually something that Paul is going to be quite happy about.
Chat points out that there was not 1 but 2 copies of Brass's Bounty in the first pack, so maybe the Revel in Riches.
Maybe we can see something sweet in the feature match area.
Maybe that's why Paul was just taking a gander at the card, not because he wanted to consider it, but just thinking, there is a combo available out there in the world. Here's a Star of Extinction, continuing the removal thread here for Paul, but also saying, all right, let's go into red. He's going to take it as well. So he has... What a weird deck. Like, it's not often that you see black-red Direfleet Neckbreaker Star of Extinction deck.
Captain's Hook.
Captain's Hook.
No, it seems almost like he's taking these powerful rares because he doesn't want his opponents to play with them, and even though he's unsure if they're really better than some of the commons in the packs.
And what is he going to take here? A Skittering Heartstopper, a Direfleet Interloper.
I like the Heartstopper just for his curve, and he's very defensive and reactive anyway. So this is crazy. He's just picking more discard spells.
Man, he is going to grind his opponents into dust if he gets a chance to cast all of these things.
So the Ultimate Guard Pro team must have a very different view of this format, where they're saying there are 2-drops, but in the end, you win if you have more cards than your opponent.
Yeah, another thing that we could be looking at here is the ability for Rietzl to deal with some of the really powerful bombs in the format. Coming from Ixalan, which was a more linear kind of, we call that a popper format rather than a prince format. And these ones, the bombs are very real. And one way you can deal with them is just by stripping your opponent's hand down and saying, okay, well, I'm going to make you discard your last 2 cards. There goes your Tetzamach and your 6th land. Or, I'm going to look at your hand and take away your Profane Procession here.
Cards that Impale don't deal with.
Exactly. So interesting stuff, right? And a cool take maybe from Team Ultimate Guard. Now, there is another Sailor of Means in the pack, but I wonder if the Hoarder is more in line. Oh, wow, there's also a Dragon Skull Summit.
The Hoarder is actually really nice for Paul's deck. I actually expect him to just be black-red at this point.
Blue. I think you're right. Yep. I think if he wanted to, he wouldn't have taken the Star of Extinction, for example. So, well, I guess black's open.
Yeah, but we've known this for a very long time.
Yeah.
Paul got the black signals. He picked black cards. He forced or made sure that nobody to his left was drafting vampires. It's just there were 2 options for his second color, and it wasn't entirely clear which direction he should go. Because also, and this is not only about picking cards of that color, it's also about picking black cards that fit the strategy, or picking or not picking the Captain's Hook, depending on where you want to go.
There's another Direfleet Interloper. So while not particularly perfect as far as curve goes, he's picking up multiple 4-drops. These are the types of threats that he can use to end the game. They just are. If he has this much removal and he can strip away his opponent's hand, he can do it. There's that Revel in Riches back again. But there's a Thrash of Raptors. No, he's not taking that. He took Bellowing Aegisaur.
Yeah, he did want to hate draft here.
Yeah.
Maybe considered Revel in Riches, but ultimately
figured, give it a run. Probably better off letting somebody try that strategy. Rummaging
Goblin can be quite nice, I think, in a very controlling deck.
Yeah, I agree. It's gone up a bit, but he took Unclaimed Territory instead. What a weird draft. He ended up on red-black Pirate Control somehow. Stormfleet Arsonist is a nice pickup, though.
That's actually nice because I think unless he ascends, he doesn't have anything bigger than 3/3. Okay, there's a 5/3 in his pack, in his pool, but this is actually
we don't speak of the Canal Monitor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, not in this booth.
I've won a trophy with 2 in my deck.
Have you really? Wow, hard mode. All right, and that is going to wrap it up here for Paul Rietzl's draft. An interesting little... Oh, he got the last pick Dragon Skull Summit.
Rewarded.
That's a nice... Look at Paul. He says, yep, we did it. That's a nice pickup for his deck. Yeah, I agree with you, though. I think he's going to end up... He didn't end up with that many blue cards at all, and he kind of veered away from it. But the real key here is that his strategy is a little disheveled, but he has the tools, right? Like anytime I walk up to you, Simon, and I say, you have enough creatures. I'm not going to tell you what they are, but you've got enough of them. And I'm going to give you 2 Moment of Craving, an Impale, a Contract Killing, and a Reaver Ambush. You'd be like, okay, I can make that work, right? Like
because Paul will know how to play with these cards. He isn't going to aggressively trade. He's going to use his removal when he can, and then he just wants to have a single 5/5 left on his side of the battlefield.
Exactly, and that is the name of the game, of course, when it comes down to these type of decks, because this is not proven linear strategy that he's put together. This isn't one of those, oh, he drafted the Black-Red Pirates deck, I know exactly what that does. That is a strategy in this format, but he's got, you know, some deviations from it.
He drafted a good stuff deck. I think the best decks in Rivals of Ixalan are more synergistic, but that doesn't mean that he can't win 2, even 3 matches with this.
That's right. All right, well, we've got another draft to show you. This one was recorded. This is our undefeated player, Adriano Moscato. That is going to happen over at the news desk right after these messages.
Well, it's day 2 here at Pro Tour Rivals of Ixalan. We've shown you 3 drafters so far, 2 yesterday and Paul Rietzl today. And so far, we don't seem to have had a real sort of home run draft, one where you go, now that's a rare I wanted to open, and who passed that? And someone can't read what that card does. That just hasn't happened yet. It's all been a bit messy and just tough to work out what goes on. So maybe it's our last shot at this. Let's see whether the 8-0 player, that's Adriano Moscato, in his 3rd Pro Tour, maybe he can get the job done. Let's find out.